This is how I became psychic. This is part 2 in a series that I've been doing about how I had my spiritual awakening and turned psychic. Fair warning, if you watch this, your abilities may start to come online as well. So when I had my spiritual awakening, there were 2 spirits that physically manifested themselves in my living room. And I connected and communicated with these spirits effortlessly for 3 days. This was before I even believed in spirit communication. I had never had any kind of experience like that before. And after those 3 days, it was completely gone. And so I spent the next 2 years trying to figure out how to get it back. And I did all of the traditional stuff. I took courses. I followed many of the big name mediums that are out there. I learned about chakras. I learned about meditation. I did everything that you're supposed to do in order to be able to communicate with spirits. And absolutely none of it worked. At the end of those 2 years, I pretty much gave up. And what I decided to do was go back and start to really analyze those first 3 days, really picking that stuff apart, thinking about what was it like when the information was coming? What was it like when I was talking? How was it all happening? Because I had no idea how it was all working. It just did, right? Before I knew anything about any form of spirit communication, it was just flowing and it was just happening. And so I reflected on those things. And during this time too, I was going and I was doing a lot of practice readings also, doing readings for other people, anybody who would let me. And I was absolutely terrible at it. I was no good at all, but I kept trying and I kept trying and I kept trying. And the whole time I was analyzing, like literally obsessing over those first 3 days, any chance that I got. And I started to have little insights here and there. And then I'll never forget the first time that I actually did make a connection in a reading, it was like, boom. All of these feelings came back to me, the same type of feelings that I had during those 3 days. But I had forgotten about what it felt like when I was connecting with those first 2 spirits. And when I finally did connect with the spirit when I was doing a reading, it felt the same way. And it brought all of those memories, all of those feelings coming back to me. And so what happened was I was able to reflect on that new experience now and pull apart new insights and new information. And so that's what I did for the next 7 years. I kept practice reading. I kept taking a little bit of information from each reading that I did do well on. And here's the thing. I noticed that when I was in my head and I did completely terrible in these readings, that it felt different than when I was connected with the spirit. And so by reflecting on my readings, every single one of them, even the ones that I was doing terrible at, I was able to get insights on how I was connecting, what it felt like to be connected. And that journey over 7 years is what ultimately led me to really understand how I was connecting with the spirit world. And so those of you that are out there that have tried this a few times and don't get anywhere, you're giving up too early. You've really got to try and figure out how you connect. What does it feel like when you're connecting? And you'll never get there unless you're, number 1, analyzing your experiences, and number 2, never giving up. The more readings, the more that you engage with spirit communication, the more you're going to learn about your way of connecting. Now, I hope that it does not take 7 years for you to do this. And as a matter of fact, in my next video in part 3, I'm going to share with you some things that I wish I would have known as I was going through that journey that will definitely help you fast track finding your abilities, okay? It's not gonna take you 7 years. So if I give you some tips and some information that I wish that I had when I first was trying to go about this and learn, do you promise not to give up? Let me know in the comments.